All right. Welcome back, folks, future educators, current educators. This is Dr. Vincent Price here, and you are in for a treat today because me, and the person that you see on my right here, Dr. Jihad El-Amin, are going to be talking about some very important components to teaching. It's not just about the lesson plans. It's not just about the standards or the objectives. It's going and connecting with the students and being able to motivate them and connecting with the parents, being able to keep them in the loop, not just for the bad things that happen, but also for the good things to make sure that those relationships are sound and making sure that students are on their route towards success. So, um, so Jihad, um, take some time to let us know where you're coming from here.
All right. My name's Jihad El-Amin. I've been, I say, formally in education for over 10 years. Say informally in education, probably over 20 years. Um, and I kind of make that difference between after I got my degree to before I got my degree. Um, but I decided to be a teacher back when I was young in high school. Did an internship at a middle school, probably when I was 17, 18 years old. And the teacher in that classroom was like, if I could pay you to do this today, I would just pay you to do it today. You wouldn't even have to go do nothing else. You just kind of built for this thing. Um, so she kind of solidified that thought to be a teacher. And I've worked in youth groups and all type of stuff throughout the years. And after all of that experience, I came to a point that I realized that it was a difference between managing and it was compared to leadership. Um, I think throughout my teaching, I found out that one of my strengths was motivation, and the other strength probably was building relationships. So those are like components to my success as a teacher, as an educator, as a leader of youth, even as a parent. Even as a parent, I think those are some major components to my success that I hope I'll be able to share with you guys.
Okay. And Jihad, where are you currently teaching?
I'm currently teaching at in Knox County schools at a middle school in Knox County Schools, South Dole Middle. Um, and I I've taught elementary school and middle school. The bulk of my career uh, was middle school, fifth grade. I did a little kindergarten for a while, and but majority fifth grade and sixth grade. Right now, I'm the intervention math specialist for our middle school. So now I actually work with sixth, seventh, and eighth grade in
Okay.
math.
Okay. So one thing that one thing that I feel that folks who are on that teacher education train, they've just boarded and they are trying to prepare themselves for entering the classroom. One thing that they're often curious about is student motivation, both in the physical classroom and now that we are dealing with COVID, uh, the digital classroom. So, can you speak to ways in which this student motivation is one of those components that's central to actual goal of teaching the students? How is student motivation even involved in that?
Um, I look when I think of motivation, or a lot of times I look at how people approach the whole concept of motivation, and I think they blend inspiration and motivation as the same thing, And for me, at least, those words are not like synonyms for each other. They actually mean two different things. Um, and a lot of times when people try to motivate students, they're using a lot of inspiration and wondering why it doesn't stick. um, Inspiration is the thing that sparks you to do something, right? It can happen within you, it can happen outside of you. You can be inspired by something that you heard, something that you just had a thought about, something that you see. Could it inspire you to just want to know more about something or attempt to do something, inspiration is the thing that makes you say, what if? Like, well, what
Mm.
if, this? Well, what if that? Or that would be nice if I did or if I could, right? So that's inspiration. Sometimes a word can inspire you, right? You at church, you at the mosque, you at home, you with your granny, and they could say something that just sparks something in you to make you kind of think about something, and that feeling that come along with that thought. That's what I feel like inspiration is when they say something burning in you. That feeling
Mhm.
that come behind that thought that actually put you to action is all part of that inspiration. Um, Motivation for me is the thing that drives you after you're already going. So you've been inspired to do something. I was inspired to teach. um, when I started to go through the process of becoming a certified teacher, right? Going to college, being in college classes, failing classes in college, right?
Right.
Life happening, all of those things that happen. Motivation was the thing that kept me going. That's the motor in you. That's the drive in you that say, like, whatever you using to keep you going. Like, um, the school I went to, I did 3 years. I was in my junior year, and the school lost its accreditation,
Mm.
and I had to make a decision. I had a daughter where I was. I could have left this city, this state, and went somewhere else where they would have probably accepted all my credits, but then I would have had to restructure my life. I had actually had two daughters. One would come stay with me in the summer, and the other one lived in the same place as me. Um, I would have had to restructure how I did everything and sacrifice some things to do that, or I could stay here and basically start over.
Mm.
Um, and I decided to stay here and start over. And a lot of people say, like, so you was a junior in college, the school lost its accreditation, you decided to go to the community college, and you had to. I basically doubled up. I had to talk to the dean. I knew some people who gave me access to the dean, and we came to agreement that I could do like 20, 18 to 20 credit hours a semester, right? In order for me to kind of expedite that process of getting through the junior college. And people was like, man, I ought to just did something else. And I actually agree with him. I understand the logic. Like, if you would have put 3 years into something, that I still have credits from that former school. Like, if they ever
Mhm.
open back up, I could go back and get a bachelor's degree in history and a minor in world lit, right? So I still have those credits that I've never used for anything else. But the thing that motivated me was I just kept telling myself, like, you will be a teacher in somebody's class, in somebody's school. Like, this is when that teacher told me before, like, I was built to do this, I
Mm.
embodied that. So even when everything fell apart, I mean, and the wheels really fell off, and I still was motivated to just go to that next level. So then, to me, inspiration is the thing that gives you the idea.
Mm.
Motivation is the thing that keep you going in spite of the obstacles, in spite of the things that happen.
I like that. I like that idea that understanding the inspiration, fills you with this feeling to get you started, but motivation is actually what's going to move you. That's what's going to start you going. I like that.
Yes.
So what types of things do you do or have you done in your classroom to move students?
Um, and now this kind of um ties into that relationship piece. And the first
Uh-huh.
step into that is um you have to kind of find, or I always say, I invest the time into getting to know my students. So
Mhm.
every school year, you know, most school districts or principals, leadership teams will say, like, take this first week or this first two weeks or sometime today, and
Mhm.
don't teach any content stuff. Just build relationships. Get to know your students. Um, the beauty of teaching elementary was elementary kind of structured for you to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's structured in a way that is nice and fun, and you got little cute stuff that you could do. Um, so I learned that doing those personality surveys, the Myers Briggs, or all of the different ones that they got out there, um, those are investments. Excuse me, 1 second.
Yeah, no problem.
The guy out there to cut your hair. Um, but the the Myers Briggs and all those type of things, I learned that that was an investment. I had some teachers who felt like that was a waste of time. And I get the feeling because you got this drive that you want to teach, you want to get into your content, you know that these students are already coming to you behind. You know what I mean? All of these things are burning in observations and all of these other things burning. So you feel like I need to hit the ground running. And
Yeah.
you got me. Go ahead. Go
And,
ahead.
and I'll speak to that because here's the thing. Coming straight out of school, they taught you to establish this relationship, let your student get to know your students and let your students get to know themselves. So start off with the interest inventory, learning styles inventory. That way you'll be able to tailor things to what they need. And so my first couple of years I did that. The issue though was that after the students completed those forms, I
Yes.
did not look at them. I put them
Yes.
in a stack and said, okay, well, I'll get to that at some point.
Yep.
And then it never came. So I just stopped doing that because it was a waste of time. It was lying to them in a way, saying that I'm interested in knowing how to do this so I can tailor these things to you. Meanwhile, I'm not even looking at them. So
Yeah.
I would value more creating something that I could work with that fits along with my skill set, and that will keep us moving and grooving. Now, of course, I'm dealing with higher level folks, high school, so I'm always ready to hit the ground running, give an assignment that first that first day to kind of set the tone. But yeah, it is a big thing to not just to bring those inventories in, those surveys in, but actually to do something with them.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna give you two things because when I left elementary, I seen that middle school I had to shift the way I did it because of the age and the maturity or where the kids were compared to elementary kids. And I always say elementary kids seek to please you, right? They want to
Mhm.
connect with you and be your friend, and they think being your friend means to be pleasing to you, right? So it's a different way you can motivate, manage, or lead those kids. Middle school kids are trying to figure out who they are, what they are, where they are, and what just happened. um,
Mhm.
they in a funky place of they feel like they just the same as a high schooler and they grown, but they really not. And when the pressure cuts on or the heat get hot in the kitchen, they easily revert back to a little kid and try to revert back to being a kid, and being sensitive and all those type of things. But one of the things in elementary school, I did the same thing. I did the inventories the first year, put them in a file, and left them there.
Mhm.
And as I was teaching, and I had these moments of being frustrated with the kids because they just seem not, they don't get it or they don't want to get it, and they don't see that they need to get this stuff because it's important.
Uh-huh.
Um, by some chance, I come back across the stack of the papers, and I started reading the papers actually about a particular kid, actually a young man that I worked with all the way until he became an adult. And after going through the papers, I read the papers and I read about some of the stuff that they shared, and it clicked to me like how
Oh.
you know important this was, because they were actually, especially elementary kids, they telling you about who they are. You know what I mean? They telling you about,
Mhm.
because the particular one asked about them and their family, if they had pets and all that stuff. And I started to slowly kind of sprinkle that throughout the lessons that I was teaching,
Mm.
right? So then I might even do something simple as change the name of character in the book or a person in the word problem to the same name as the dog or their auntie or their mom or their uncle or somebody that they was talking about, right? And I did it just to test to see if they even be, aware enough to know that
Mm-hmm.
that's what I did, or at least that this person got the same name. And they did. Like if I use somebody's granny name, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? They got it. Like they'll stop you mid model, and as a teacher, you want to finish your model. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Get a lesson pace and structure. You gotta finish your model. You know what I mean? But they would stop me in the middle, like, that's my grandmama name. That's my grandmama name. And instead of stepping on that, right, and finishing my motto, I started to embrace those and call those teachable moments. And I would
Mm.
say, like, that's the name of your granny. And yeah, that's the name of my granny. And I might let them say a little piece, and then I'd be like, okay, so your granny, and then I might just start saying like such and such granny instead of even the name. And now this kid is all in, like this kid is all in. It don't matter what I'm talking about now. This kid is all in because for him, I'm talking about his granny. You know what I mean? And those things, I seen the benefit in that. So then when I got to the middle school level, the cutesy stuff didn't always work. Because they automatically felt like it was lame, and this is lame and this is this, and we already did that in elementary school. We did that. So I kind of went away from using the worksheet per se,
Mm-hmm.
and what I would do was I would pose the questions and let them write. So even though I
Mm-hmm.
taught math, I had them journaling in my math class. And the first question I always asked was, why are you here? And before I had them journal it, I would just have them stand up and say it, right? I'm a very auditory person. So then I would have them stand up and just say, like, you know, why they here? Like, what made you come to school? What makes you come to school every day? And I always would get, because they middle schoolers and they like to be funky and mean. So, one of them like, I come here because my mama make me come. If my mama didn't make me come, I wouldn't come. And I would always stop at that moment, and I can bet money that I would get a person who would say it. And I would then I would celebrate them and say, like, I love your honesty. A lot of times people stand up and they say what they think the person in authority wants to hear.
Mm.
Right. So you'll say stuff that you'll say teacher like stuff. So I come here to get an education so I can get better and go to college. And not to say that the people who saying that is being fake, but if that's not how you really feel, I'm glad that you said what you really felt and what's really
Mm-hmm.
driving you to come. Right? One, you let me know that your mama have a lot of authority in your life. Some people, parents don't have a level of authority. And if I'm saying I'm gonna call your mama and I don't know that your parent don't have any authority in your life, then I'm gonna find out at the worst time that your parent, your mama, your daddy can't say or do nothing to make you do nothing. Because if we in conflict and I'm talking about calling your parent, you like, call them. So most teachers now feeling like now they got to dig their heels in and double down and do
Mm-hmm.
something to get you, but
Mm-hmm.
in this earlier conversation that was way more pleasant, I found out that your mama have a level of authority because she can make you go to school. And if she can make you go to school, she can make you do a whole lot of other stuff, right?
You know, what I'm picking up on is that you are very attentive to the details. So, so going back to your first example, how you have them fill out things and they might mention names of whoever or whatever, and then you take that information and then you use that as content for your task questions or for your word problems or whatever the case, and that little insertion opens up a a world of connection for students, well, one student at a time sometimes. And so when I guess teachers are frustrated on how to build relationships, I guess it goes back to building connections, and it can be as simple as putting their name in. That's what I used to do. I used to put my students names into the questions, and they would look up at me when they're taking a quiz or a test. Yes, and they feel so
Yeah.
special. And
Yes.
but what that also does, um, it also connects, as you were talking about, how it connects the student to the real world. Connect
Yes.
that content to the real world. Now,
Yes.
this is something that my grandma is dealing with. So now I need to definitely invest. And then,
Yes.
and that second one, those those random, seemingly random conversations, you're collecting data. So a student
Yes.
just speaks his or her mind, and you say, "Oh, okay. So from this, I can say this. I know this," and you use that, and that is fantastic.
Yes.
So I
Yes.
just wanted to take time to acknowledge that. Yeah,
Yeah.
sneaky.
Hey. And I'm gonna say, and because I think when you start to do these things, somebody observing you, you have to point it out in your observation because
Mm,
they may miss it. Like the way
yeah.
that you saw that, a lot of times somebody coming to do your observation may not pick up on this. I heard somebody say something about it's very hard work to make something look easy, right?
Mm,
And so as you do these things and they become just a part of the culture of your classroom and the nature of your teaching style, um, people may miss it. And it's your job, especially when you're being observed, when they ask you, is it any things you want to point out? Don't be shame and shy to point out. Point these things out. Like I did this because I know this, right? And because that falls within those that rubric of, you
mm-hmm,
know, teacher knowledge of students, connecting the learning to the real world. You know what I mean? All of these things are important things that you have to be the person who point them out. You know, don't just assume or hope that the person observing you will see them, right? If you're deliberately and consciously doing something, be very if they don't point it out, then you point it out. Like this is what I did and this is why I did it, and look at the outcome that I received from it, right?
mm,
And that was something I had to learn through observations. Was that's something that you have to do is be aware of the things that you do, and picking up on those details and collecting that data. I had to deliberately do it, so then now I'm conscious that I'm doing it.
mm,
um
mm-hmm,
and this is to me educating the whole child. When we talk about educating the whole child, you know, educating the whole child is actually trying to know the whole child, right? It's a book that I'm reading called Relationship 4 Habits of Successful Relationships. And one of their habits is be curious, not critical. And I look at doing the worksheets, asking these questions, they're allowing me to be curious about the student, right? Not
mm-hmm,
critical about the student, not critical that, because I have the feeling like, how you come in here with no pencil, no paper, but you got on J's? Like, I have the feeling, right? You got an
mm-hmm,
iPhone, you got J's, you know what I mean? But you don't have pencil and paper, you know and I could easily step into that space of and that energy of being critical of the kid. But if I ask the right questions, I may get the answer from the kid early and not in a situation that we're in conflict. And that next question I ask is after what make you come to school every day is what does education mean to you, right? And I asked them that because I want them to be very deliberate about what it is, why I'm coming, and what is it that I'm gaining from being here, even if I don't want to be
mm-hmm,
here. Even if I don't want to be here, I want them to be very deliberate about these things. And I have them write these things out after we talk about it. I have them talk about it first because I learned young people need time to gather their thoughts.
mm-hmm,
They need to kind of hear it. A lot of times they have all these thoughts and they make these actions. And when you ask them, why did you do it? And they shrug their shoulders like, I don't know. And you be mad, but they really don't know. They just had the inspiration and they just acted on it. You know what I mean? So then when
mm-hmm,
they talk about it, they get to think about it. And then after they think about it, now they can critically think when they write. And they can start to kind of direct the thought when they're writing because they didn't already heard themselves say it and even
mm-hmm,
heard feedback or reaction from the room when they said it. But I asked them, like, why do they come? Why do, and all of this may not seem like motivation, but it actually is motivation and it's building relationship because I'm gathering information about who it is I'm teaching. And, you know, I always say you earn the right to teach. You earn the right to teach the people that you're teaching. Doesn't matter if they're adults, kids, teenagers. You earn that right. And through me engaging them and connecting with them, because if they don't ask, but they usually do, after we go through everybody in the room, they say, well, what about you, Mr. E? And I say, oh, appreciate you asking. I ain't think you cared enough to know. I just thought y'all just left the room. I walked in the closet and that was it. I just come out the closet when y'all come into class, right? And then I share things about them. I tell them about, I have, 7 brothers and sisters, and I have 3 daughters, and I have a wife, and I have a baby mama, right? I tell them, I share these things about them, right? About myself with them. And I don't go through and share all the nitty gritty, dirty details. You could have your filter on and share. I always say, share as much as you comfortable. And if you was being recorded, you wouldn't mind watching it back, and you wouldn't have nothing to defend, right? So then you have to filter this. You can't just share every nitty gritty detail of your life, but share enough that you're comfortable, and enough that a person could get a grasp of who you are and where you came from. So I share about my family, and I share about, and when I tell my daughters names, and they always, I got a cousin, that's my cousin name, or that's my friend name, or it's a girl in 8th grade, they got, So then these are other connections that seem like they don't matter, but they do matter, because then now they're a part of my world and I'm a part of their world. And now we're moving from, and I explicitly tell them this is my class, and I'm structuring this class so it can be ours. But if you disrespect or dishonor anything or person in this class, it will become my class again. And I will make sure you treat it like I'm going to show you how to treat it. So this could be our class. And and how I set up my room, the students have access to everything they need access to, right? And they understand that the stuff that's in my desk and on my desk is important stuff. So don't mess with that. But almost everything else in the room is free reign. And I show them where it is and show them how to get it. And because I was an elementary school teacher, maybe, I don't know, I go through meticulously, like, this is how I want you to get up. This is how I want you to walk over there. This is how I want you to put my pencils. This is how, and I go through that process, even with my older kids who initially, gripe and moan. But in the end, they love it, because the classroom stopped becoming a place that they go to, and it becomes a place that they're a part of, right? Because they're in this space that they know all of the rules and regulations of this space. And anybody else who do not spend as much time in the space as us, they have to be taught how to maneuver in this space. What does it mean when I say class, class, class? What does it mean when I say hands and eyes? If I say transition position, what does that mean? And if you're not a part of this space, you don't know what those things mean, right? But they do, right? So then, and when new people, adult or child, come to our classroom, I do not teach the culture of the room. One of the students teach it, or several of them may teach. Say, this is what you do when he say that. This is what you do, and this is where you put your bag. And I let them do it, because I want them to have that ownership of the space. And they understand that we all own the space, but when the rubber meets the road, if somebody disrespecting anything or anybody in this space, they got to deal with him. You know what I mean? The buck still stops with me, and they have to deal with me. And what that does is create not only a sense of belonging, which is one of those Maslow, the hierarchy.
Hierarchy of needs.
Yes, right. So you getting that love and belonging, because we sharing with each other about our lives. We, and I don't just hear it and never talk about it again. Those sprinkling throughout the lessons, those one-on-one courageous conversations where I'm like, your Meemaw wants you to do X, Y, Z. She's struggling and she's doing the best she can to make sure you got these nice J's on, and this da 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 da. And all she needs you to do is come here and go to school and learn something. So when she get too old to get you the J's, you'll have the tools to make sure she's taken care of. These are the conversations I'm having with them, and it's based off of what they said, not what I said or what I think. It's based off of what they shared, right? And that resonate with them. So then now, because motivation is not, I'm gonna say inspiration and motivation is not a one shot deal. You can't say something to spark somebody and then they just gonna stay driven the whole time, right? And if you
Right.
look at your own self and say, like, what are some things that I want to do that I was inspired to do, I started to do, and then I stopped, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
because you have to continuously spark that motivation. You have to continuously, so with your students, you continuously hitting them with things to motivate them. And I'm right now, I'm just talking about even on the personal level. There's a more
Mm-hmm.
personal level of motivation, but then we can even get into how you use the content that you teach as a motivator also. And that's where it all comes together beautifully, is when you start to tie the inspiration, the motivation, the relationship into the content, right? Because then now the content becomes real, and it's not that you just forcing them to learn something to pass a test,
Mm-hmm.
right?
So, Jihad, could you give us an example of how uh, you provide a way into that content, motivate the students
Okay.
towards the content?
I'm gonna say the first thing I do, or to kind of close out that other end or put a button on it, is, you
Mm-hmm.
know, you have to, all of that you doing, you have to have a why. And my why is a 10-year plan. So I
Mm.
function off a 10-year plan. I worked with majority 10-year-old, 11-year-old, 12, 13. So I say, like, in 10 years, you're either going to be 20, 21, 22, 23, right? And when I see you, I want you to be able to say, hey, this is my store. Hey, I'm the CEO of this company.
Mm.
Hey, this is my I'm the manager here. Me and my wife just built a house down the street. You know what I mean? And I explicitly tell them this. This is my 10-year plan for you, right? When I bump into you, I don't want to bump into you and see you talking about, hey brother, can I hold $1? You know, I ran out of gas. You know what I mean? I was like, I know we all hit hard times and it could happen, but my goal for you is when I bump into you in 10 years, you gonna be a boss. You gonna be the leader. You gonna be the person who working in the place, and you gonna be like, hey, what you did for me, I want you to be able to do for other people here. I want to invest in your class or in your school or in your, you know what I mean? And I tell
Mm-hmm.
them this, and you can see eyes lighting up in the room because nobody ever even have an expectation of them like this. And then, so then when we jump into the content, um, I do break a rule when it comes to the content thing. Where they, a lot of times your leadership will say, don't teach anything, don't teach any content, just do relationship stuff for relationship's sake. And I don't believe those things live in silos. So what I
Mm-hmm.
did was I kind of found a happy medium. I wouldn't teach the content of whatever grade that I'm teaching. What I would do was I would look at the previous grade and I would call
Mm-hmm.
it X grade boot camp. So when I taught sixth grade, I would say we're gonna do fifth grade boot camp, right? Because what I've experienced was a lot of kids come, and they'll either say, our teacher didn't teach us that. We
Mm.
didn't learn that in fifth grade.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I always would say, like, yeah, is it possible that your teacher didn't teach you that? It's possible. It's sometimes that happens. Is it more highly likely you wasn't listening? Probably so. Or, you know, or I had students who was in pack the whole time, so they barely was in class. Have some kids who was in self-contained their whole
Mm-hmm.
elementary school year, and then get dropped into middle school and they're not in self-contained. So this is the first time they in a room full of people and learning the content that everybody else learning. So then I say, we're going to do fifth grade boot camp for this week or 2 weeks or whatever it is, um, as we do this relationship building. So while I'm doing all these other things, building a relationship, we're recapping what they either learned or what they were supposed to learn the year before, right? And in an
Mm-hmm.
accelerated model, because we're only doing it for a couple, we're taking a year and putting it into a couple weeks. So then, um, and I use the stuff that's, I don't know what you would call it in language arts, but the factual information or the fluency stuff. So in math, adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, knowing your multiplication facts.
Okay.
All of those,
So kind of like the foundational stuff, huh?
yes. So all
Okay.
that nuts and bolts stuff, I use those things as starting to build their spirit and build their access points to the content, right?
Mm.
Um, and give them, I always call it success entry points, right?
Yeah.
And stamina building exercises. So, and usually the first couple of weeks of school, parents be upset with me because they like, you give a lot of, I give a lot of homework, a whole lot of homework, right? In the beginning, they get a lot of homework from me. And the reason why is because I pre-test them. So content wise, I always pre-test. I pre-test, even before I teach a lesson, within that lesson in my guided notes, I have a
Mm-hmm.
thing that's called the opening. And the opening is basically a pre-test. I don't say it's a pre-test, but that's what it is
Mm-hmm.
allowing me to already see what you know or what you don't know, right? So I pre-test my students, and when I pre-test them, then I start to look at what gaps they have, depending on the school or what my money look like, depending on what systems I use. I use Alex or Alec, one of those. It's called that. I love that system. It's very expensive though. It's like $30-$40 per kid,
How is
but
that spelled?
and that's what it's spelled, Alex with a K instead
Oh,
of an
okay.
X.
Okay.
Yeah. When I find it, I may message it to you. You can put it on your Instagram.
Okay.
Um, but it's expensive. But what I loved about it was that it was self-paced, but it
Mm-hmm.
always puts you at a grade level. So, I found out that a lot of times people don't have the time to decipher graphs and charts, right? So if you send home the data and it's in a graph and a chart, you
Mm-hmm.
know, only few parents that gonna really look at that and study that and it's gonna mean something to, and then another smaller amount may reach out to you and say, I don't get this, what does this mean, right? And then the rest will just kind of put it somewhere. But if it gives the data, if it takes that data and place you at a grade level, they know what that means. If you in sixth grade and the data says you do math at a first grade level, a parent know exactly what that means,
Mm-hmm.
right? And now we can have the conversation of how we can get you to a different place. A student knows exactly what that means too. So the student don't have to have a whole nother lesson on what their data means because it's something that they already understand, right? Now, I'll forewarn you, some parents and guardians will get mad at you when the data say that their kid is at a first grade level. They won't be mad at the data. They won't be mad at their kid. They'll be mad at you and say, how dare you tell my baby that they function at a first grade level? Let me tell you
Mm-hmm.
something, right? And you had to sit there calm and you let them get it out because some teacher in the point in their life probably mistreated them, and this is the
Yeah.
first time that they get to give these teachers the business back. So you the one. So you you let them, you take it, you take something, as long as it don't get too far out of hand, you take it, and usually what I do is let them go through that, and then I say, I appreciate you coming. I appreciate your passion and fire about your kids. We need more parents like you who willing to come up here and get on somebody's head about their baby. And now they puzzled because I didn't respond back to fight them,
Right.
right? I told them I appreciate them telling me off, you know, and I say, but it's not me that's telling you or telling your child that they're at a first grade level. It's the data. It's based off of the work they did. Either they clicked anything or put anything down, and that's why it says that, and we'll see the difference in that, or this is where they're functioning. And then the next
Mm.
thing will be, the teacher before, when they was in elementary school or when they was in middle school, they was getting all A's, and then they come to you and then they failing, and you talk about that at a first grade level. I can't speak to what other teachers did or what other schools said or however that worked. You know what I mean? I can't speak to that. I only can speak to what happened in here. And what happened in here is this is what the data say. But the good thing is this, that I'm here dedicated to your baby to make sure that they either get on grade level or above. And your baby won't be the first baby who started at first grade and leave here at ninth grade. It's
Mm.
possible. You see what I mean? So now
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying this sometime in front of the parent and the kid, right? And I'm inspiring and motivating both of them at the same time, right? Because when people are in a high emotional state, when people are in a high emotional state, they
Mm-hmm.
that's the time that you imprint on them. Students, parents, all of the above. That's when you have to realize that you're not just reacting or responding or defending yourself,
Mm-hmm.
but you are go get the phone off the bed. You're not just reacting, responding, and defending yourself, but you're imprinting something on them, right? So when people
Mm-hmm.
are upset or they sad, when they're upset, I was watching on TV.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, go get the phone off the bed. Okay. I was watching on the TV. Okay, but Daddy doing an interview, so Daddy got to finish. Okay. Okay. So give me a couple more minutes. Yep. But so knowing that I'm imprint, when I realize that I'm imprinting on people, I be very deliberate about what I say to them. And it's not that I'm
Yeah.
just gassing them up, right? I'm not just saying something to make them feel good. I'm saying something that I'm dedicated to doing. Right. So I'm dedicated to either getting your child to meet their goals if they have an IEP, exceed their goals, or exceed the expectation that I have and anybody else have. I'm dedicated to that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then I start to break down the level of work that it's going to take. It's going to take some work that you have never probably experienced in your life, right? And so we're going to start out. Yes, your kid have a lot of homework. They do. Mr. E is a ton of homework. I say yes, but if your kid is in sixth grade and it's taking him 3 hours to do multiplication facts, that tell you what level he is in, because you start learning multiplication facts almost the end of first grade. So somewhere it was a breakdown in his
Mm-hmm.
learning where this gap was created, and he's moved forward chronologically, right? He moved forward in his grades, but in his learning he haven't. And now we have to play catch up. So in order to play catch up, yes, he have to do 20 multiplication facts a night. But I'll promise you this: the more he show me that he know and understand this information, the less homework he or she will have from me. So the homework can go down. The more you show you gain knowledge, the less homework I give you, right?
So Jihad, does that mean that within a classroom of say 20 students,
Yes.
they have different levels of homework, or different types of homework, or different homework measuring different skills?
Yeah. Tell him I'll get it later. Tell him I'll do it later. Um, I'll pay him anyway. Um, but that usually happened later in the year. That's not in the beginning of the year. In the beginning of the year, we all have the same homework
Mm.
until we start to until people start to separate themselves by their skill set. So in the
Okay.
beginning of the year, it's very uniform. Everybody doing the nuts and bolts. Everybody doing the long division. Everybody's doing the multiplication, and the subtraction, because a lot of students come to me and they're not able to subtract, 13 from 5, or 5 from 13.
Excuse me, Daddy. I thought you were singing the song.
No, I'm not singing a song.
I thought you were singing the good morning song like this. Good morning, Junior. Good morning, Junior.
Once again, attention. So you gotta give them the attention.
Yeah.
But I wasn't singing the song. We sung it earlier. But yeah. So everybody does uniform homework, but as the years start to go, yes, homework does start to shift, because my class is self-paced too. So then usually those kids who get it first or got it beforehand, they start to pace ahead of everybody else, right? So then their homework will be stuff that sometimes I have students who 2 or 3 chapters ahead in the work. So their homework is based off of that. And usually closer to the end of the year, I have students who have paced to the next grade level. So I have 6th graders already moving into or a quarter way into 7th grade math. They're already doing it. And luckily the schools that I was in before, I had good relationships with the 7th and 8th grade math teachers. So what I would do was I would just look at what their pacing was, get the work. The students would do the work for me. Me and the student would discuss the work, and then that 7th or 8th grade teacher would share whatever quiz, exam, test that they had for that particular standard. And then the kid would take that test, and then me and that teacher could look at that data, right? One, now I'm building equity for this kid with this other teacher, because this teacher is excited about this brilliant mathematician coming to them next year, right? They already excited about it. The kid get to go to their class and take the exam, so they get the feel of how this teacher runs their classroom, and they can make those adjustments. So, you know, that was probably one of the beautiful things that I were able to do for the last couple of years, was doing that when I went into middle school, where when I was in elementary, you know, we didn't have that connection.
Okay.
But yes.
And Jihad, as we wrap up, let me ask you this. Let's say that we have a teacher who is in his or her first year, and what is this? It's September. And for whatever reason, there's a group of students that don't have any kind of motivation, or don't have motivation to complete the assignments that this teacher is trying to have them complete. What would you suggest that this teacher do? Maybe start implementing Monday.
I'm gonna say, first thing is, don't be afraid to reset. So if you look at these students and you say like, this student or these students aren't motivated, go get the brown phone for daddy, okay? No. Go get it for me.
Why?
Because I need it.
Why? What do you need for what?
I'm gonna show you. Go get it. Go get it so I can see it.
What's the motivation here?
Right. What's the motivation? Well, yeah, right. What's my motivation? But I would say, one, don't be afraid to restart. And ask yourself, like, what is it? Because you really can't control them. That's the myth. What is it that you could do differently to, one, make you excited about whatever the work is, right? When I taught elementary, I taught math, science, and social studies, right? And with science, I had struggled for a while. And what I did was, I was like, well, what would make me excited about this science book, right? And this tech and all these words is in Greek and Latin, and I don't even know. Like, what would make? And I was just reading through the book, and I was like, something I read, and I was like, that's like magic. And I was like, well, we're going to learn the scientific method through magic. So I'm going to find a magic trick. I'm going to learn this magic trick. And it got to be something quick and simple. So I learned this magic trick where you take a balloon, blow up a balloon, and stick a pin through it. And then you can stick the pin all the way through it, and the balloon don't pop, right? And then we learned the scientific method on trying to figure out, how did that work? How did I do that magic trick? So one, I like magic. I'm into magic. It's exciting and interesting to me. So I was excited about it. I was motivated to do this lesson plan. I wasn't motivated to do the scientific method at first, but I became motivated because of this thing. So don't be afraid to interject you into the lesson plan and into the process, and things that excite you and motivate you, that you think the kids would think is corny. If you really excited about it, they will too. Even the 8th grade kids that I had was like, hey, y'all, this corny, but he could just be making us like just do work out of a workbook. And I'm like, that's real talk. You know what I mean? Like, so then after that was said, everybody got into it. And then I see them in the hallways, and the same thing I see them in high school, and the same things that they thought was corny, they still say to me now at 16, 17 years old. Like, you know, so I'm gonna say, and bite off a chunk that you can chew. Don't bite off. Don't take something so huge, this huge elaborate thing that you think got to motivate them. If you're not a rapper, if you're an introvert, if you're not a magician, you don't go outside of yourself. You know, start within the boundaries of you. You know, and then after you do that, look at the kid. If you do have some work on the kid to show what this kid is motivated by, do that. If you don't, do what I do, one-on-one conference with the kid. And you could do it with every kid so it don't look like you just picking them out. But then you do it and say like, you know, I have 4 assignments that you just haven't done, you know, and you can straight up just ask them like, is it because you struggle and you can't do it and you need support? Or is it that you just don't feel like it? And be honest with
Mhm.
me. And then let them
Mhm.
be honest with you. And then, you know, and invest time in this conversation. And out of this first conversation, you still may not get completed work, right? But then you'll get an idea of what it is you need to do to get them sparked to do it, and then you know, and be in the work with them. So then sometime I would say, well, you don't, I don't have nobody to help me, Mr. E. I don't have nobody. Nobody can help me with the work. They ain't got time. You know, okay. Well, at lunchtime, come with me and we gonna get on this work. You're not in trouble. I explicitly tell them you're not in trouble, but you're gonna come and do this work with me because I want to make sure you know it. I want to make sure you can get it. I want to make sure you can be raising your hand in class like everybody else. And I haven't seen you raising your hand. You know what I mean? And
Mm.
so, you know, and then we do that, and I kind of go through that with them, and I be with them, and I don't do the work for them. I don't do the lift for them. I don't ask every leading question to lead them to the answer. I still let them experience academic frustration, but I'm that get into that leadership to wrap it up. I don't become the test, and the people who make the test become our opposition, not me.
Mhm.
So whoever wrote the textbook, whoever create the test, even when I create the test, and they don't know I created, but whoever create the test, that's the opposition, right? And like what's the DJ Khaled be talking about? They don't want you. They don't want you. They don't want us to have fluffy pillows. I tap into the day. You know,
Mhm.
they whoever the day is out there don't want you to be able to add, subtract, multiply because they want you to be a mindless consumer. They don't want you
Right.
to be a producer. They just want you to consume. And if you want the bag, if you think you're gonna be the boss, if you're gonna be the leader, you're gonna be the CEO, you have to know how to produce. And in order to produce, this the basics. And you gotta get it. Whatever this thing is that we're doing, whatever subject's doing, this is a, you know, I tied this thing into real life. Like,
Mhm.
you know, and I'm the person here who is dedicated and charged to do it. And I'll say, and you could tell them like, don't let me get free money. This money come direct
Yeah.
deposit. You learn it, you don't learn it, the money in the banks, and depending on what bank you work at, it's before the day come, the money already there. You know what I mean? So don't let me get free money. Let me earn this money by teaching you. Let me earn this money by helping you. Right? The money
Mhm.
there though, it's coming. You pass, don't pass. I'm gonna get the check, but I want to earn the check. So you know, and I explicitly tell them that, and you'll see, no matter the age of the student, they understand that. And they, you know, and some of them will say, like, Mr. E, still earning that check? I say, yeah, I am. You know, trust and believe. So I'm gonna say, don't bite off more than you could chew. Find something that inspires and motivates you to motivate that kid. If
Mhm.
that doesn't work, then really have a conversation with them and see either what's the obstacle or what sparks them, what interests them, what, you know what I mean, whatever it is that, you know, sometimes you just talking to them and listening to them, especially listening to them, will allow them to then initially they'll do the work because they're doing it for you. They want to do it because they want to do it for you. But the goal is that then they realize that they want to do it for them. And when they want to do it for
Mm.
them, then it's gonna be easy work. It's easy, it's an easy lift in, you know,
Mhm.
because they know why they're doing the work and what they're doing the work for. If some of your students want to know or learn more about motivation, Dr. Pink wrote a book and he has a YouTube video, and I can't think of the name of the YouTube video. I apologize, but he did research on motivation, and he has an article on, and he has a YouTube video talking about motivation and productivity. And his article that's specifically for educators in schools
Mhm.
is really good. And he really dig into a lot of the stuff that I'm saying in a more, I guess, detailed, structured way. And when I read it, I was like, that's what I be thinking. That's what I'm saying. That's what I be doing. So he was able to structure all of the stuff that I kind of say in a whirlwind into this structured way that you probably can follow a little better. So yes, Dr. Pink, and I can't remember his first name, but I will get that to you too. So
Okay.
I would definitely have them look at his video, the candlestick problem. That's what the
The candlestick problem. Okay.
yes, the candlestick problem. That's the TED talk. He talks about the candlestick problem. So, and he has a lot of other work that's specific to education too, and motivation in education. So, um, when you get your kids to either when they get to the place that they not just working for you, but they're working for themselves, now you become a leader, you become a facilitator, and leaders don't say go out there and do this. Leaders say we're about to go out here and do this. Leaders don't say
Mm.
go win the game. They say we are about to win the game, and you gonna be able to celebrate in their success. You may cry in their failures, but then your job is to pick them up, dust them off, give them another dose of inspiration and motivation, and send them back out into the fray until they can achieve whatever it is they're trying to achieve.
I wish there were a word stronger than what I'm about to say. Wow, to kind of capture everything that you've been saying. But wow, uh, Doctor, I'm speaking doctorship
I
into
see you.
your.
I'm taking it
Thank you,
in from your
thank
lips to
you,
my ears, right?
thank you, Mr. Jihad El-Amin. So, uh, I'm sure that you have, persuaded folks to want to follow you. You've won some folks over to your flock. So, how can people keep track with what you're doing and where you are?
I have a website, jihad.alamin.com. So that's my website, one place that you can get in touch with me.
That's
Um,
jihad.elamin.com.
yep, yep,
Okay.
jihad.alamin.com. Um, I'm also on the social medias. Yep, that's it.
Okay.
On Instagram, I'm at G4G underscore power in
Mhm.
your position.
The letter N or IN?
G4G underscore oh yeah, IN, the word IN. So it's
Okay.
all kind of smashed together. So
Okay.
G4G underscore power in your position. Yep.
I think I got it.
Yep. That's it.
Okay.
Um and Facebook, I'm at Jihad El-Amin. So you just
Okay.
same thing as the
Mm-hmm.
website. And I got a Twitter, but I don't really use it as much. I need to step my game up. But yeah, I don't use my Twitter as much. So but it is Mr. J El-Amin class.
Okay.
And
And go ahead.
I'll go ahead. No.
Okay. And on your Instagram, and perhaps you also broadcast on YouTube, you do some lunch. Is
Oh
it every
yes.
day? Yeah. Yeah.
Every
Tell people
well,
about that.
I went from every day to doing it every Friday. I got some coaching.
Okay.
Craft in her world, shout out. She gave me some coaching, and she was saying like, you don't want to exhaust yourself doing it every day. So
Okay.
what I do is every Friday at 1:30, I do lunchtime loving cool jihad, LL Cool J for all of the hip hop fans out there. Um, and we talk about I talk about on this live, I talk about teacher leadership. I talk about raising and rearing children and guiding them, into becoming successful, happy adults. So right now, the topic is tips for parents with school age children. So tips that you can use to one navigate the school system and engage the school system, but also tips that you can use to kind of support their learning and their growth also. So that's kind of what we're talking about now. So yep, lunchtime love and cool jihad 1:30 on Fridays on Instagram live. Don't only log in, comment, engage me. I like engagement. Talk to me.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you once again for sharing this wisdom and for sharing this insight. And I wish you well as you continue to inspire the future.
Yes. And my wife been on me about getting back with our book club. So let me know when you free
Mm-hmm.
so I can get back
Absolutely.
on it. Yes.
Yeah.
She my motivator sometime when I lose my motivation.
All right.
Yeah.